let's go ahead and jump in because I definitely want to leave some time for questions for Delmonika, since she has been in this role and has this experience, and she's really the one that you all are going to want to hear from. So welcome to the Reach Associate Room. We're so excited to tell you all more about this position. And so as we go through the slides that detail more in depth a Reach Associate's roles and responsibilities, I want you all to please feel free to drop any questions that you might have in the chat box. You're also more than welcome to come off of mute and stretch those beautiful vocal cords if you want to ask a question for the whole group. You're more than welcome to do that as well. And so as we think about the Reach Associate role, we just want to emphasize a couple of pieces as you all learn more about the ins and outs and the day-to-day of these responsibilities. So you heard Anya talk about MCLs or TRTs/EITs, and those two roles primarily work really closely alongside the Reach Associate role or the RA role. And in general, Reach Associates are advanced teachers, assistants, or paraprofessionals who provide release time and support for MCLs or TRTs. When I'm talking about release time, I'm essentially saying that a Reach Associate, one of their key roles is to free up time for a multi-classroom leader to actually get out of the classroom and work with other teachers and students. So one of the core components of an MCL's role is to actually be able to observe teachers and provide them coaching and feedback during the school day. Reach Associates are super important and super critical because as the MCL is getting out of the classroom, the Reach Associate is actually taking on some of those instructional duties and responsibilities to keep the class going in a way that differs from our traditional teacher assistant or paraprofessional role. So you can still expect to do work by supervising students while they're working on projects or skills practice, supporting students in digital learning or a digital learning lab, or even instructing students in small groups or individually, as well as supporting the team with other non-instructional duties. Everything that a Reach Associate does is by the direction and in collaboration with the multi-classroom leader or the team Reach teacher that they're working alongside. So this is truly the definition of a collaborative teaching partnership, where as a Reach Associate, one of your key roles and responsibilities here is going to be, to support the team in various ways, which could include, as I said, supervising students in a digital learning lab or instructing students either individually or on a small group basis. And so to help really contextualize this, you can kind of see here on the screen all of the various Reach Associate responsibilities. And so, as I mentioned, one of those critical parts there is to allow for our teachers to reach more students and provide additional support to them. And that is typically done by having a Reach Associate either for part of the day in an elementary school or on alternating days in our secondary schools, providing that time for teachers to get out of the classroom and really leading instruction. In addition to that, RAs play a variety of other roles. And so we know that the core role here is to lead the classroom using a lesson under the direction of the MCL, as well as those same classroom management norms that have already been established by the MCL. But RAs will also do a variety of other activities like supporting that practice, non-instructional duties, and teaching small groups of students. It's important to note that for each group of students that will be with the RA for a small portion of the school day, that essentially what they're doing there is providing really targeted tutoring, skills practice, as well as any other type of remediation or enhancement that a student might need. It looks very similar here in a secondary setting as well. But we know that obviously elementary and secondary schedules are a little different. And so that time structure is typically where we see the biggest difference there. And so in most of our North Carolina districts, a Reach Associates stipend level do receive, an additional stipend level above that of a traditional teaching assistant role for these additional instructional duties and this team leadership component. And so we're actually going to watch a really short clip here, which features Delmonika, and she's going to be talking a little bit about her role as a Reach Associate before we actually open it up for some additional questions.
You can just feel the love in that school building, from the office to going down the hallway to going into classrooms. And when I sat in on a meeting listening to the conversations with students about like social and racial injustices, and I didn't have those conversations in school. Like I just knew that this was a place where kids were valued, and it was what I needed to be a part of. Best decision I ever made. Every single day I wake up and I know like I made the right decision.
So I got a double dose of Delmonika there. We got to see her on the screen, and then we'll actually get to hear from her here in a bit. And so, yeah, would love to go ahead and open it up to see what questions you all have, what we can further clarify, and maybe Delmonika, you can actually just kick us off by talking a little bit more about like what your day to day looked like as a Reach Associate at North Edgecombe. Delmonika, go ahead.
Yeah, so literally like I said earlier, the RA role is the best role ever because there are no limits, right? Like my day to day didn't necessarily always look the same. But some of the things that I would do is pull small groups and go over concepts that maybe the teacher already taught them and maybe they need to hear or see again. I would take attendance. I would do the non-instructional things like make copies and that sort of thing. But honestly, most of what you'll usually hear me say about the RA role doesn't have anything to do with like making copies and the admin stuff. It's like being in the classroom. Like I was a teacher in that space. I felt value. I had connections with kids. So I could kind of be like the eyes and ears of the classroom. Like the teacher would be up there teaching. I'm monitoring the classroom during instructional time to make sure that the kids are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Or I'm able to actually see like, hey, when the teacher was teaching, this kid seemed like they were really, really struggling with this part. Then the teacher and I could collaborate to come up with a plan so that maybe the next day I would pull them into a small group and reteach them or introduce a new concept. So there are so many different things I would do in my RA role. And it was just, I love being a teacher, don't get me wrong, but I went into the RA role. I said, I'm gonna do this for a year. I'm gonna get really good. Then I'm gonna go into the classroom. Because being a classroom teacher was my initial plan. Then I came across the RA role. So well, I'll do this for a year. And I literally fell in love with it that I did it another year. So I stayed in the RA role for 2 years. And I only plan to stay in it for 1 year. So I mean, it was amazing.